Hello, hello again to the Agricolor Reactor. Today we have another date night with Eric. Yay! And we are watching what?
We're watching 20 forgotten pies that vanished from the family table from Vintage Lifestyle USA.
We did something about some dinners some time ago, remember?
Oh, yeah.
That was the same channel. I wonder what's it gonna be. So,
I like food videos. So.
Yeah, Eric does like. So,
yeah.
just watch.
Have you ever thought about which pies people in the past enjoyed the most?
Pumpkin.
There are many forgotten treasures of the pie world that have simply vanished as time passes by. Come along as we discuss 20 of the most famous pies that once took center stage on dinner tables. The mincemeat pie was a staple holiday pie that was quite popular, especially during Christmas. This will typically consist of finely minced meat, diced fruit, and liquid to preserve the meat's freshness. Now, the dish itself has been famous since the early 14th century. Mincemeat pie was an innovative way of making sure meat...
Back in the history, hundreds of years ago, yes, there was a meat. I know, because mincemeat pies, little tiny things, are very popular in Ireland during Christmas. So we sell them with our work. And you sell them probably too. And you can buy them in supermarkets and stuff like that as well. And so when I came to Ireland, I was kind of like, why is it called mincemeat? Because mincemeat is basically ground meat. That's what it is. You go to the store, you buy mince, that's what it is. You know that, yeah? So back in the beginning of the thing, it was that there was meat with some fruits and stuff like that. But now it isn't. There is no meat in it. It's just fruits. So basically chopped down fruits. Like dried fruits, like prawns and dates and raisins and all cranberries and things like that. So, well, okay.
last for a longer time without curing it or salting it. Since then, the recipe has gone through so many changes that there's a mincemeat pie out there for just about every kind of palate, not just for preserving meat. You could even find pre-made mince pies in the grocery stores once when this pie was at its peak popularity as a holiday special. Does this bring back any fond Christmas memories for you? The shoofly pie...
UV damage? Help leave it behind with new...
That didn't sound good.
Isn't that like actual fly?
I don't think so. Unless there's an actual shoe in there. But I doubt it.
A shoe fly.
Maybe your shoe stinks so bad there's flies around it and that's what it is.
We'll see.
You get the flies, you put in the pie. Full of protein. No? Could I be wrong?
The name is just,
IGN.
yeah. The name is kind of... Oh. So... Oh yeah. But no, back to the mincemeat. So maybe I missed the part when he was saying in the beginning they had meat, and obviously now there isn't. But you can usually get them like a smaller versions of it. Remember, I sometimes bring them.
Yeah. Not for me.
No, not my thing too much. I still eat it, but it wouldn't be something I'd be missing terribly. So yeah. Let's see here.
in Pennsylvania Dutch country. It had a niche popularity since its inception in the late 1800s. It actually became pretty popular around the Pennsylvania area as a coffee cake and then as a popular choice for home bakers. It used to be a regular part of breakfast if you were from there. Bakeries usually serve this in two types, with a wet or dry bottom, with the former having a thinner crust and a thicker outer layer, while the latter more so resembles a cake. Traditionally, both have to include molasses, but for people who aren't Pennsylvania natives, bakeries sometimes switched it out for corn syrup. With the introduction of newer pies and innovative recipes, bakeries started shifting towards newer pies. The shoofly pie became somewhat of a figment from the past. Today, we can only reminisce about this tempting pie as many bakeries stopped production on it years ago. A sugar cream pie, or also known as Hoosier pie, maintained regional popularity in Indiana. This pie from the 1900s suffered the same fate that many other treats on this list did. When you think of this, start picturing a sweet creme brulee with a custard filling and some cinnamon sprinkled for good measure. Now,
do you know what that sounds like? Like those Portuguese pastries that I bring from that. Those little 4-packs with like a custard in. That's how it sounds to me.
It was a lot more popular back in the 90s because of how easy the Hoosier sugar cream pie was to make. From bakeries to households, mostly everyone would have a go at creating the sugar cream pie. With the pie being mentioned in many cookbooks from the early 1900s, we learned that the trick to getting that sweet, scrumptious flavor is letting the pie rest overnight. Many bakeries would create the pies and let them rest overnight so that they could have the best pie to serve the next day. This extensive and high-effort procedure was what led to the pie's downfall. Bakeries understood that extensive labor and waiting times for one pie was not reasonable. Slowly and surely, this pie started disappearing from shelves until one day it completely faded into history. Ever heard of a chess pie? This southern favorite was relatively well known, especially in the South. It includes pantry staples like a filling with butter, eggs, sugar, flour, milk, and it goes back to at least the 1850s. It's been theorized that the pie probably came over from England, but the fine details of the truth are anyone's guess. What is certain, however, is that this pie is a Southern classic. How you want to prepare this depends on you. It resembles a cheesecake, but it can go either citrusy with a lemon flavor or a chocolate savory approach instead. You just need one crust and a basic filling, though some also add cornmeal for a thicker consistency. It's always nice when you can spin a pie 10 different ways. With any dish that is centuries old, you can expect it to either be lost in tradition or carried forward. The chess pie's fate suffered from the latter. As time went on, less and less people started making and serving this pie until this treat completely got lost. The raisin pie is a common dessert. It was most popular as a funeral dish in Amish communities, especially because it didn't...
How often did you eat pie when you were living in the States?
Only during the holidays. When the family got together. I'm sorry, not just the immediate family, but the large family got together. We had a lot of different pies. And then from stuff from KFC, like a little personal pie. Those were delicious, and they took them out. Switched to parfaits. Yeah, exactly, man. KFC in the early 90s was awesome.
No, I'm just wondering because you can't really get those in here. I mean, you can make it and stuff like that, but it wouldn't be like that. It's just it's something that's kind of like, to me, it's just like typically American pie, like this. I mean, I wonder what
require preservation, freeing up hands for other work. There are variations on how to prepare it, but most agree that a double crust topped with a lattice is essential. If you were to draw a mental image, think of a mincemeat pie with raisins and a thicker crust. The pie gained somewhat of a bad reputation because of its association with funerals. Some considered it to be a bad omen, and so it lost its popularity amongst masses. Maybe the next time you need to bring something to a funeral, you can keep this in mind. You might have heard of bread and butter pudding, but the pie form is less common now. From the 12th century to the 21st, this staple of the populaces has gone through relentless change. The version that has vanished, however, is the bread and butter pudding pie. A rather confusing mix of the bread and butter pudding pie. A rather confusing mix of pie crust with pudding, this pie was well loved amongst English and American crowds in the 1900s. Much like the name suggests, it was a fusion of pie crust with a custard filling made out of bread and butter pudding. It met its downfall, however, as people preferred the iconic pudding form over a pie that could not be consumed in one sitting. It had a short run amongst the people and became a weird combination that was forgotten in history. A rather puzzling pie is the vinegar pie. Many of you today may feel grateful that this pie is gone, but back in the day, this old-fashioned pie was more of a marvel and culinary masterpiece. This pie, nicknamed the Desperation Pie, came to be at a time of economic difficulty and uncertainty. It quickly became a staple in households that wanted to experience the awe of eating pies, but could not exactly find ingredients to make other famous pies. Becoming especially popular in the Midwest when lemons were not as easily available. People in such desperation turned towards creating a pie filled with a tangy custard. But instead of using expensive citrus fruits, they used vinegar to create the flavor, thus creating the now forgotten vinegar pie. Dating back to the mid-1800s, mock apple pie first came into being during the wintertime. The season of winter would often bring scarcity of fruits. One such fruit was apples. So the bakers at the time turned towards creating a pie closest to apple pie, but without apples. Hence the name mock apple pie. Known for its clever use of Ritz crackers to mock the texture of apples, it was also surprisingly budget-friendly. In the 1900s, when the popularity of crackers increased, mock apple pie seemed to be a fan favorite. This pie used ingredients like breadcrumbs, sugar, cinnamon, water, lemon, and crackers. The surprising part was, people could not tell that this pie did not include apples at all. But as food companies started producing fruits that could be sold all year round, the need for a mock apple pie decreased, resulting in it being sidelined for a real apple pie. Possum pie was a regional specialty in Arkansas. If the name seems unheard of, that might be because
nice.
this pie was not widely known outside the region. Back in the 1970s, the possum pie was all the rage in Arkansas. It was popularized by its mention in a 1983 restaurant review in Arkansas Gazette, naming the pie to be one of the best things Arkansas has to offer. Before its popularity died down, you'd be able to spot this pie in bakeries because of its distinct crumb crust and big size, due to its several layers. By several, we mean a lot of layers of chocolate, vanilla, cream cheese, and even whipped cream. This nut crumb crust pudding pie, however, started seeing its downfall around the 2000s when food critics started frowning upon heavy and extremely sweet desserts. As less people bought the possum pies, less bakeries created it, thus leading to the ultimate downfall of this treat. The Marlborough pie has an interesting history. Emerging first in England, the pie disappeared around the 1660s, with its only mentions being in English cookbooks. Almost 116 years later, these cookbooks were used to bring the Marlborough pie to life in America. It automatically became a popular choice for any sort of Thanksgiving celebration. The English and American version was prepared with a staggering 24 eggs, beaten until you could not feel your arm, some cinnamon, minced apples, and butter. It became a hit across the land of the America. It would not have its rise to fame last too long because the sheer amount of effort it took to create this pie would have bakers choosing to stock other treats instead of this. As pecan pies and cherry pies became more popular Thanksgiving desserts,
All of that. So yeah.
How did you hear about the Marlboro pie? Did you ever had it?
Maybe I'm thinking of Marlboro cigarettes.
Cigarettes?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. It'll be different spelling there, but.
Yeah. Marlboro pie has tobacco. For us.
You never know. He didn't really explain it. What's in
That
it?
one. Yeah.
And it's an old one too, from 1600. So who knows? Could be.
Indeed, indeed.
the Marlborough pie faded into history. Much like the Marlborough pie, gooseberry pie was also famous in Europe
I heard that
before
one
they
too.
found their footing in
You
America.
heard about gooseberries?
It's
'cause
a
I love
rather-
gooseberries. You definitely hear about gooseberries. You know, the little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the grapes kind of.
Oh, I definitely had that gooseberry pie.
Unknown pie now because gooseberries were becoming less common, leading to a decline in this pie's popularity. But when it was prepared,
Has a lot of
the
sugar.
pie used fresh gooseberries
It's an
with
every
the
cake,
ends
babe.
either
know.
removed or trimmed,
Candy cake
quarter
anymore.
of a cup of a potato, and any pie crust available. The ingredient list seems odd, but it would make for a perfect pie. Many would wonder why this pie went out of fashion, and the answer is simple. With the increase of pies like strawberry and apple pies, using a fruit like gooseberry, which is expensive and not readily available, became more of a hassle. Ultimately, this pie disappeared from American cuisine. The grapefruit meringue pie was a rather unusual pie that never gained widespread popularity,
Grapefruit
but was
meringue.
definitely consumed in some parts of the country. We can say this because you could find it in cookbooks in the 1920s as an easy-to-make and delicious pie that many would enjoy, though it could never gain popularity in middle-class and lower-income houses because of its requirement to always use fresh grapefruits, which were expensive in the 1900s. Its recipe was immortalized in cookbooks in case it ever found its popularity in later years. Created like any other pie, the ingredients were eggs, vanilla, grapefruit, pie crust, and a whole lot of patience to create a meringue. The wait time to create this pie paired with its rather expensive ingredients lead to this pie being ignored and forgotten. The flapper pie was more popular in Canada, but it definitely found its footing in the US during the Great Depression. During this time, most of the ingredients for the flapper pie became pretty easy to acquire. If you want to imagine the taste, visualize a custard pie with a vanilla core that's topped with whipped cream or a complimentary meringue. You can also encase it in cracker crust. In the custard filling, it was common to use whiskey by some people who wanted to elevate the flavor of the pie during rough times. But mostly, everyone settled with vanilla or lemon peels that added enough flavor anyway. Though by the 60s, the pie was largely forgotten because of changing economical situations and the emergence of newer desserts. This pie was more so a hack for people to use up unripe tomatoes that grew in their gardens,
Willing to try it,
back
though.
when gardening was less of a
I'm willing to
hobby
try
and
it.
more of a job for many Americans. The forgotten green tomato pie was made with cinnamon, spices of the creator's choice, flour, raisins, and sliced green tomatoes. It was all cooked upon a stovetop before the pie was transferred into a pastry dish to be baked. Sometimes cloves would also be added, and this pie would turn into a savory lunch. Many upper-class people would add mincemeat as they could afford to include a protein into the dish. This is a pie you definitely won't hear about much anymore because it faded into obscurity, and there hasn't been any reason to revive it since. The transparent pie was a Kentucky specialty that wasn't widely known outside the region. Before its decline, it was particularly a holiday favorite. The pie would often get confused with chess pies from the South or pecan pies, but they really just look alike more than anything else. You might find the name misleading, as the pie is not actually totally transparent, but more of a beige-ish off-white color.
What do you do with the little
It rose
balls in
to
there?
fame because
Well,
exotic
when doing
ingredients
the
were harder to...
pastry, because actually we do them for quiches as well. So you do the pastry, but if you let it not weigh down, it's gonna puff up. But you won't have it like very flat on the bottom, so you can put the filling in. So you need to kind of like weigh it in. You can put it. Often people get like those actual like I think they're made from like clay or something and ceramic balls, so they're heavy, and they just put it in, so just weighing down. Or you can just use beans or peas or even rice. So.
get in Kentucky during the 1800s, so home bakers in small towns turned towards easily obtainable ingredients to create the transparent pie. Conventionally, it would be made with ingredients like sugar, flour, eggs, butter, whipping cream, vanilla extract, brown and white sugar, a jelly filling, and just a bit of bourbon to make for a state classic. Historically, the huckleberry pie used to be a huge part of Native American...
Looks nice.
I
Another
have
one,
two
huh?
lovers in life.
Two lovers in
Oh.
love over cooking. Yes, chef me. This is one of them.
Really?
We'll send you food websites.
Millie. Millie.
Pie used to be a huge part of Native American culture and cuisine. Before American settlers appropriated it, it was a dish they would make annually with simple enough ingredients like huckleberries, flour, cornstarch, a few sticks of butter for the filling and the crust to get a golden, crispy texture, sugar, and some citrus juice. You'd first prepare the crust, and for this specific pie, it's best to go with a traditional crust, then the filling, before assembling and baking it. The popularity of huckleberry pie died down in households as modernization happened in a post-colonial era, leaving this pie to fade into history with only some states ever looking to revive it. The cottage cheese pie found its footing in America due to its unique texture and flavor, which resembles a fragrance similar to fresh nutmeg. Its versatility as either breakfast, dessert, or even a Saturday brunch option paired with its
nice.
relatively straightforward recipe made it a hit. Though it did have its most famous days in the 1930s-60s. The decline in its popularity was mostly
30s, 60s.
because of changing tastes and fast food culture. There's just less of a focus on the morning breakfast or brunch at some comfy cafe type of lifestyle now. This delicious piece of history was made using 15 ounces of cottage cheese, flour, sugar, 1 grated lemon, milk or cream, and a pie crust, which you can make from scratch or use store-bought ones. Oatmeal pie was pretty famous in the 1900s when it was often compared to a pecan pie, but with a filling made from
pie is nice.
oatmeal. This pie was popular during times
love it
of
as you
rationing
say,
and frugality,
1900s.
but became less common as more luxurious desserts became
1999.
accessible.
Yeah.
Now, there have been a lot of different and contradicting accounts as to when this pie actually first popped up. Some go back to the Civil War in the South Carolina region, which would place the pie's
I
creation
mean, it seems
around
like
the 1800s.
pie could be with anything. You just have
The
to have
traditional
crust
makeup of
and
the dish
you
has
can
not
put
changed
anything
a
in
Fill
lot,
it.
though.
it,
Yeah.
cover it.
You'd
it's
need a
pie.
9-inch pie crust, 4 eggs, sugar, flour, grounded cinnamon, a dash of salt, some light cornstarch or syrup, a generous teaspoon of vanilla, some melted butter, and quick cooking oatmeal. It was a pretty simple, healthy, and great way to spice up oatmeal
And
back
actually,
in its day.
you know, if you think about it, it's oatmeal,
This
so you could
decadent
make it
black
that
bottom
else that's in
pie
there.
was first found in
so
1870,
fine.
created by a Swiss chef
You
by
just
the
about
name
it.
of Felix Weidmann.
Eric have a problem with sugar now since he made that cake for me years ago.
Yes.
He never realized how much sugar goes into baking.
Once you realize how much sugar goes into baking, you'll stop eating it.
Yeah,
It's
you never did,
insane. You know, I used to eat a lot. Like, oh, it was a cake. That tastes so nice. The nicer it tastes means it's just full of sugar. And when I made my wife here a coffee cake, the amount of sugar was disgusting.
The cake was delicious.
Yeah, the cake was delicious. It was awesome.
Eric never knew how much sugar goes into cakes,
Yeah.
into baking and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
so,
But that's what I keep telling you. That's what it is in the cakes. The ones that you're buying are even probably even more than that.
Yeah,
And other
I would still eat
bad
cake,
things.
just
Yeah,
more self-conscious about what I'm eating. Soda too.
yeah, it's funny though.
The pie featured a rich chocolate layer topped with a creamy rum or vanilla custard. It was a hit in the mid-20th century, but eventually lost its allure to more modern chocolate desserts. The dessert first came to America in the early 60s with a famous professor of maths, Fred.
I'm just getting so confused because people start saying, "Oh, 1900s," but it doesn't sound right to me because when he said mid-20th century, that sounds better to me, isn't it? It just sounds normal. 1900s is just like that's not right. That's 200 years ago.
Bamforth, who always brought black bottom pie to gatherings. He would gatekeeper his secret recipe out of love for his wife. Still, he struck gold with a simple recipe. The pie was a great mix of milk, eggs, meringue, custard, vanilla, and some good quality rum. You can imagine, it was always a hit at the dinners. But as time would have it, this dessert also went out of fashion. Do these classic yet forgotten pies tempt you to revive them just so you can have it?
Actually, they do.
Yes.
Quite a lot of them too.
I would like to try each and every one of those.
Yeah.
If they're pre-made. I don't want to cook them.
I mean, we should try to make some of the pies. I'm still trying to figure out how to make that pumpkin pie. Oh, you see him? We can't
Pumpkin
get
pie.
Pumpkin puree here, so that's the harder part of it.
It's delicious.
Yeah. Oh well, those were looking really nice. I think I'm gonna get some more videos like that for you.
Thank you. Want to sleep too?
No, it's just I
You sound
know.
tired.
I'm always tired.
I'm tired too. I slept a lot last night. I was full of caffeine, so I was up to 2 in the morning.
Typing, and then just hear it falling asleep.
Yeah.
Is there any pie that you would like that wasn't on the list that you like though? Well, this is forgotten stuff, so obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I like chocolate mousse pie, pecan pie, apple pie, pumpkin pie. Can't think of any other pies.
Just pies? You just like pie? You just like sweet stuff?
Not so much anymore, but
Yeah, because you know how much sugar goes into it.
no, not really.
Well, like I said during the video, pies are not something, not pies like that. Obviously, we would make something like that in Poland, but it wouldn't be just. There's so many cakes that you can do and stuff like that. It's just nothing comes to my mind that we would do in similar way. That you pre-baking stuff and then you're filling it, and then you can or you don't have to put stuff on it. Just nothing. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow and see Eric next week. Bye.